Tenz just played possibly his last professional match of his career, subbing in for a tier 2 team, and a lot of people thought it would be LeBron in the G League, right? He'd be smurfing on them, but that was not even close to the case. He actually went negative in his first game, and his second matchup, he went 39 and 39 overall. So what in the world happened? After all, this is Tenz, the grandfather of Valorant, and I think that that has a lot to do with it because he's Unk now. I'm kidding. But this just shows that you cannot immediately slot into a team and expect to dominate. Tier 2 Valorant is still professional Valorant. These are not bronze players that he's smurfing on. And to be honest, they were kind of disrespected, I think, during this whole thing when people were just thinking Tenz would kind of just destroy them. That obviously wasn't the case. So let's go ahead and take a look here at what happened, why Tenz lost his possible last pro Valorant match of his career. Now, since Tenz fans are watching this, and I assume you have the humor of 12-year-olds, go ahead and get me to 6.9k subs. If you're not a Tenz fan, also subscribe because I'm not the biggest Tenz fan either. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, Qbert have started off well here, and this round specifically, I think, is something that'll show if they can go ahead and finish this out, take it to a map 3. They go ahead, have T-Dog over here with some Odin spam, and then they leave Redux the Vice on A as they go and pivot towards C. They're going to have Tenz ult, doing a little bit of Eggster tech where you ult after sending the TP up there. You can't see it because the observers are not choosing to focus on it and my face cam's in the way, but Penny kills Redux. And this, I think, is where the downfall begins, because even though Qbert had the site with minimal resistance, it's just been pretty much completely given up. YFP, if you'll notice, there's a cam right here. So they have all the information, but because they're down the pick, Redux dying earlier, then Qbert try and fight. They try and get the picks back, as you can see Tenz right there, and they even continue this fight, this aggression, having Knights right here. He ends up dying because they wanted to even out numbers, and then Penny just goes crazy. Cypher trip, and at this point Tenz is in a 1v5. Maybe if it was a bronze lobby, you know, this gets pulled off, but it is still pro play. Again, I think it was pretty disrespectful, honestly, that a lot of people were pretending that a guy who hasn't played pro in a couple of months is going to just smurf all over them. For the record, the thumbnail, in case you haven't noticed, was kind of bait. No, he's not completely washed, but I do really like views, so I just did that. Now, Qbert started out doing really well here. It's 3-2, and for a second, I thought I clicked the wrong VOD, but they end up getting a single round after all of this, and let's go ahead and break down what has went wrong. So they do a very slow A hit, and if you'll notice back here, what they have is Fade goes ahead and uses his eye right over here towards C, and then this flash over towards B, just to make sure there's no aggression on any of the sites. And then obviously their A, they would hear if someone's pushed up. So they're aware that no one's pushed up. Obviously the comps are a little different, right? You have Tenz on the Yoru and then Redux on the Vice instead of, as YFP have, the normal-ish, the older comp, if you will, of the Neon and the Cypher. Personally, I actually like Qbert's comp more. I think Yoru is still going to be good, but I digress. The Teo nerf, some people think that it's going to have him be out of meta. I disagree. However, regardless of all of that, once you get first blooded, and you can see it here, your game plan shifts entirely. Qbert quickly go ahead and rotate back over, leaving T-Dog here to try and have some pressure, see if he can find a pick, do something. But Redux is all the way outside B. He's been staying here for a while, and he thinks that he's found a timing. The issue is Thief. You'll see him right here on the minimap. As soon as this contact is held, that fight over there, Thief gets 2. Penny does some nice Neon shenanigans there, and now Knight's in a 1v4. He's unable to end up winning it out. Again, once you're down that first blood, it's very hard to end up recovering, and that happened a lot in this game. But now Qbert are in a do or die situation. They're on the last bit of their money, and they just called a timeout before this. If you don't win this round, you're going to be forced onto an eco, and a ton of bad things can start to happen with the snowball. Lotus, obviously a pretty snowball-y map, in my opinion. So they decide this round they're going to do a ton of map work. And what I mean by that is they're going to go everywhere. They're going to show presence speed. They're going to have them here containing a push. They're going to go literally everywhere here and try and make people rotate away from where they want to end up, which is A. Now, look at these ults that YFB have online. Every single ult except for Fade ult, and they're 2 off of that. This is going to come in very important later. Come in clutch? I don't even know what I was trying to say there, but it's going to be important. Now, they do the same thing. Redux outside of B main here, just kind of waiting, containing, trying to see if he can get a lurk timing off, but then he goes ahead over to C. First blood. YFP were very, 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 very good at getting these first bloods, dominating Qbert by doing that. Qbert fake C, and then go over here and book it towards B, then towards A. Not wanting to actually go onto the B bomb site here, they go all the way around towards A. Side note, does anyone else think Qbert is really funny? I don't know. I just think Qbert's a pretty funny name. My current vote for best Valorant pro team of all time is give Wingman a nuclear device for the best name, but comment what you think the best name is below. Anyways, 15 seconds are left here. There's a full Cypher setup, but remember those ults I was talking about? Brother Dog, as Polars would say, rips the ult. Now a couple seconds left and they try and pivot B, realize time is not on their side, and they lose to time on a pivotal round. And you might be thinking, oh, at least they're able to save guns, but then more guns continue to go down here. T-Dog, the only one who's actually able to save his. It was not too great, especially after investing a timeout onto that round. The next buy round that they have is pretty much the same thing in terms of the First Bloods. Now, they play this obviously very differently, instead just deciding that we're going to run fast at B, we're going to use our breach, we'll try and get these ults out, get control back on the game. Penny somehow is able to live there, which is actually insane. You can see Nisbo almost uses his full kit to try and keep him alive right there, but once this breach ult comes in, they forget about one thing. Thief is right here. He's not breach ulted, gets his one, gets his two, and then dips. Tenz is able to get the refrag, but then dies trying to TP away. And again, you're putting these clutch moments. And it did seem like Knights was in these clutch moments a decent bit. And obviously he's on Omen. He's not necessarily entering as much as someone like Tenz would be, but it was just very interesting that he was last alive a couple of times. Now, this round is a wonderful example for you ranked players. So this smoke comes out right here on the side of Qbert. And I know what you're thinking. Wait, I smoke that when I'm on defense. Why in the world would they do this smoke? Are they stupid? They're clearly stupid. Clearly, me and Silver too, I know more. I know what the correct smoke is. No, so the reason that this gets smoked is because it gives you free access to cross over towards Rebel. Ranked Omen players, please stop smoking that if you're on defense. All it does is help them. Anyways, now that I'm done with that little rant, sorry, I've had one too many terrible Omen in my games that keep smoking this, but Qbert now are down their smokes player, so they elect to go ahead, try and show some C aggression. You'll see it works. This cam is about to get broken in a second here. Boom, boom, then causes some people to go slightly over there. Neon goes towards the B and C area instead of reinforcing A. Tenz has a really nice flash line up here. Keep in mind that you can't see the first part of the Yoru flash if you're on a defense. Like if you're on the other team, you can't see the first part of that Yoru flash. It's only after it bounces off of something that you can see it. So that flash was actually really nice. 4v4 now. VIEWSSSSS going to go ahead and get used. Qbert know they need this round, right? You're knocked onto another kind of semi-eco if you lose this, and then you're 9-3 most likely, which is not a place that anyone really wants to be despite the curse. Once the bomb goes down here, and then the VIEWSSSS has already been utilized, they're just going to wait. Now, they have Tenz in this position that I don't actually hate. I think this is nice because if they don't clear him out, then he's able to flank around towards A. If they do, you hope that Tenz can beat a tier 2 player in a gunfight, but again, actually not the case. Doesn't end up happening here. B-Dog just goes in, sits him down. Brother Dog doing the work, putting it in. And then, of course, YFP doing great job here, right? I really like the thing with Penny, how he swings this, by the way, onto Redux, where he goes just slightly over, and then it ends up Redux shoots in the middle of them. T-Dog, one, and then dies. So B-Dog, the superior dog, and 8-2-3. Qbert won the last round, but I just want to know who in production has a hate boner for Tenz. What is that for, bro? They don't do like whiff montages on a lot of players from what I know. That is hilarious to me. Anyways, let's take a look at the pistol round. Now, YFP had a fairly simple plan, which is rush A, Cypher, go lurk. Now, Tenz is in this B main position here, and obviously, you guys know, I've mentioned it a ton on the channel, Yoru is able to be more aggressive than pretty much any other duelist on defense without getting punished because of that TP, because he's able to get away. But right here, he does kind of the whiff outline there. Thief backs off. They try and go ahead and run him down, to be honest, but he's still able to get away. Now Redux is the one getting run down on the A-bomb site. And yeah, you already had the first blood. Again, I've talked about those first bloods. Only 4 total for Qbert. 4 or 5, actually. I think it may have been 5, but that is still absolutely insane. You're not winning a game like that. Tenz dies here, setting up some utility, and now 3v5 situation, obviously hard to win, and they don't. For the record, if you watch this long in the video and you're expecting me to say something crazy like, oh, Tenz is completely washed, no, he's not. Again, I said before, I did it for the views, bro. But Tenz did play, I think, less than he could have if they had more time in the system, and I think this is a good kind of warning to teams that you can't just sub a guy in with a couple days of practice and expect them to dominate, regardless of how good they are or have been. You need practice in a system. Now, I don't know if this is more of, you know, that, or if it's just maybe he hasn't been playing as much Valorant at all without the system, who knows, but that's just my take on it. Now, it's the bonus round, but in the post-plant, YFP do a wonderful job. I know we're not in post-plant yet, I just want to share. This is how you win your bonus rounds. You put your weaker weapons in a position to succeed. These stingers are going to eat, and this is how you win it. Now, I don't really want to shit on Redux at all. I think he's a fine player. I think he may be a little bit overhyped due to kind of the Sentinels PR and stuff, but he's a fine player. But it did seem like a lot of YFP's game plan was go to his site because Cuber were putting a ton of trust in him, having him, as you can see there, solo anchor the C site with just some thorns, and it's going to be pretty difficult there for him to try and stop that rush. He's unable to. Bomb goes down. Tenz is able to get the first blood, and this is another thing. He didn't individually like suck or anything. I don't want to try and, you know, push that narrative other than the thumbnail. He individually was fine, even great, but it's very hard to succeed when your team kind of loses. Obviously, no hate to Cuber, it just didn't work out in their favor, but this is what I mean when I say the stingers get to succeed. Tenz is about to get a kill here, and you'll see he does right about here onto the Omen TP, but Stellar is in a position with the weaker weaponry where he's still able to do damage. You want to put your weapons where they can succeed because you would rather have probably a Stinger over a Vandal in that spot. Then he almost is able to kill another person after that. And then, of course, B-Dog, I know it was only one Stinger kill, but I still felt like that was significant. Time was so low. I don't know how T-Dog wasn't really able to get that kill, but the dog diff happens again, 11-4, and it's getting pretty bleak for Cubert. Now, if you want my true final take on everything, teams need to be together for a while to be able to win in any tier of pro player, whether that be tier 2, whether that be tier 1. Heck, for fun havers, for monthly fun havers, I think you should still have some synergy here. No hate to any of the Cubert guys or Tenz. I hope they do very well in the next split and Tenz with streaming or whatever he may choose to do. Please don't kill me, Tenz fans, and I'll see you guys next time. Make sure to sub. Peace.